Okay, imagine this for a second. You're in a long-term relationship, and there are all these unspoken rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
About money, chores, seeing the in-laws, the little agreements that just sort of keep things moving.
Sure, the background negotiations of life together.
Exactly. But what about something really intimate, something super common these days, especially online? I mean, pornography use.
It's everywhere, but how is it handled inside the relationship?
Right. How do couples actually navigate that?
Welcome to the Sex Science Podcast, where we turn the latest peer-reviewed research on intimacy and sexuality into fun, accessible conversations. Generated by AI and fact-checked by experts, the Sex Science Podcast was created by LaShaw to empower you through knowledge. So, join us as we explore pleasure, relationships, human connection, and everything in between.
All right, let's talk about something that's, well, incredibly common, yet maybe something we don't often discuss openly, especially in relationships. I'm talking about pornography.
It really is widespread, isn't it? The stats are quite striking.
Yeah, I mean, think about numbers suggest over 80% of men and nearly 70%, like 67% of women say they use it. That's a lot of people.
It absolutely is.
But here's the real question, the kicker, maybe. How many of those individuals are actually, talking about it with their partners?
Mm-hmm.
So this deep dive, we're really pulling back the curtain on this. How do couples, specifically heterosexual couples, navigate this? Are there boundaries? Is it just unspoken?
And to get at that, we're looking at a really illuminating study. It's by Willoughby, Dover, and Stewart, published in the Journal of Sex Research.
Right.
They use qualitative data, which is great for depth, from over 3,300 people in these kinds of relationships. So the mission today is really to unpack what rules, if any, couples are setting.
Okay, so let's dive in. Thousands of people sharing their experiences. What was the biggest thing that jumped out? The sort of headline finding about rules or maybe the lack of them?
Well, the most staggering finding, honestly, is just how little communication there seems to be. For most couples, it wasn't just limited talk. It was often virtually non-existent.
Non-existent?
Really?
Yeah.
The majority either said they have no specific rules at all, or maybe even more surprising, they've just never even discussed the topic, ever.
Wow. Never even brought it up. What kind of percentage are we talking about for that group?
That never discussed it group, 66.9% of the sample. Almost exactly two-thirds.
Two-thirds. That's huge.
It is. And the reasons given were things like, we haven't set any rules, or someone literally said it's too awkward to ever discuss any aspect of it.
Awkwardness is a big barrier then.
Definitely. And some even seem surprised by the question, like, didn't even realize people do set rules regarding that.
It really highlights
this zone of silence.
Right. And the researchers suggested this silence, this lack of communication, could actually be risky for the relationship.
Exactly. They framed it as a potential central risk factor for relationship well-being. I mean, given how common porn use is and its potential impact, not talking about it leaves a lot unspoken.
Yeah, unspoken expectations, potential misunderstandings. Okay, so that's the nearly 70% operating in silence. But there were other groups too, right?
Yes. There was a smaller group, about 9.7%, who did talk about it.
Okay.
And they specifically mutually agreed to have no rules. Like one person put it very simply, if we want to watch it, we do. It's a conscious choice, which is different from avoidance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Active agreement versus just silence. And then there was a group with strict rules.
Yep, another distinct group, around 7.9%, had a firm no pornography allowed rule, full stop.
Okay. Any idea why?
Often it stemmed from religious or moral objections, or sometimes a belief that it's harmful to the relationship or the individual.
But was that always a fully agreed upon rule?
Well, that's an interesting point the study touches on. It notes that sometimes one partner might impose this rule and the other might not fully buy into it, even if they comply.
So even a clearer rule might hide some underlying tension if it's not truly mutual.
Exactly. Potential for unspoken conflict there, too.
Okay, so we have the silent majority, the no rules agreed group, the no porn allowed group. But what about the couples who did talk and did set specific boundaries? That was, what, around 15%?
Yeah, 15.4% had specific rules. And this is where it gets really interesting, because those rules tended to fall into two main categories.
Okay, what were they?
They were either rules about the context of the relationship, how porn fits into their life together, or rules about the context of the pornography itself, like what kind is okay.
Got it. Let's start with the relationship context rules. What did those look like?
So the most common one in this category, about 4.8% of the total sample, was a rule that pornography is only used together.
Ah, like a shared activity.
Right. Sometimes framed as enhancing intimacy, other times maybe more about monitoring, Like the person said, if you watch, I watch with you.
Interesting. What else in that relationship category?
Another 2.0% had rules focused on putting the relationship and couple intimacy first. So things like not drink sex, or it's okay as long as it does not interfere with our love life, prioritizing the connection.
Makes sense. Keeping it in its place, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And a very small group, just 0.7%, had rules for used under special circumstances. Things like only if I'm not in the mood for sex, or maybe when the other person is out of town. Quite pragmatic.
Okay, so those are about how and when it fits into the relationship. What about the rules focusing on the porn content itself?
Right. The second major category, the biggest chunk here, 4.3%, had restrictions on specific types of content.
Like what kinds of things?
Often it was about avoiding clearly harmful or illegal stuff, nothing underage or abusive, no child porn or rape porn, things most people would agree on.
Sure, baseline ethical stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes it got very specific to personal boundaries or preferences, like one example mentioned was no blondes or red-haired females.
Wow, okay, very specific.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Then you had 1.2% with restrictions on frequency, often driven by concerns about addiction or just excessive use, so rules like not watching every day.
Right, keeping it moderate.
And finally, a small but important group, 0.3%, had rules specifically about shielding children. Basically, don't watch it around my kids, protecting minors in the household.
Okay, so quite a range of rules, even within that 15% who actually set them.
Definitely.
So bringing this all together, what's the big takeaway here?
Well, I think this deep dive really throws a spotlight on a significant communication gap in many modern relationships. We know from other research that talking openly about sexuality, including pornography, is generally linked to better relationship quality. But this study shows that for the majority of heterosexual couples, those conversations just aren't happening, at least not explicitly, about rules or boundaries around porn use.
Yeah.
And that really raises a crucial question, doesn't it?
It really does. What stands out to you listening to this? I mean, if silence is the default setting for so many couples, you have to wonder what unspoken assumptions are floating around, what potential resentments might be building quietly. Maybe the first step isn't even about setting hard rules. Maybe it's just finding a way to start the conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Sex Science Podcast brought to you by LaShaw. We hope that you learned something new about the wonderful world of human intimacy and sexuality, and join us next time as we dive into more fascinating research. And remember, science is for you. Music for this podcast was produced by SOUNDRAW.